Well, hello there, welcome back to the channel, and if you're new here, hi. Well, my laptop is dying and I need to get this sorted, so I'm going to go ahead and build my very first computer. Let's see how it goes. Well, for those of you who aren't familiar with my channel, my name's Richard and I'm an outdoor photographer from Dublin on the east coast of Ireland, and I love to do photography vlogs, gear reviews, tips and tricks, all that sort of good stuff. So if that's of interest to you, well, consider subscribing. Look, for photography, for me, after my camera, after my lenses, the most important piece of kit that I use is my computer for all the editing that I post-processing I need to do on my photos. And I'm sure this is the case with many people out there. And for the last 5 years, I've been using a laptop to do this. I've been using the Dell XPS. I think it's a 9700, and it's worked out really well. It's been a great computer. But over the last couple of months, and especially the last few weeks, performance has been slowing down until the point now where my GPU is fried on this laptop. My last video, I rendered it out. I think it was an hour-long video, super long video, and it absolutely killed my laptop. It's been in for repairs. They've had a look at it and said, no, the GPU's gone on it. So I've been working on just on the integrated graphics on the Intel chip for the last couple of weeks, but the performance is dropping on everything now. I'm seeing it on Lightroom and I'm seeing it on Photoshop and everything. So I made a decision about 2 weeks ago, right, I have to bite the bullet here and get a new computer. So my options were get a new laptop, get a pre-built computer. I considered switching to Apple because the new Apple Minis are like fantastic computers. But it's Apple, it's overpriced and it's a different operating system, and I wasn't sure. And then I said, well, hell, maybe I'll have a go just building one. I'll get a better bang for buck, better value, and I'm kind of be a nice challenge, something I haven't done before. So this was about 2 weeks ago. So really I spent about less than a week researching the components, probably about 3 or 4 days, because I needed to get a move on. By the time I order the stuff and it gets here, it's going to be 2 or 3 weeks hanging around with no computer. So that's what I've done. So as you can see behind me there, I have a whole pile of boxes sitting there ready to be opened and assembled, and so you might as well have a look to see what I'm doing. Feel free to critique my component selections if you're that way inclined. And but I do think I'm hoping that this is going to be a pretty awesome build, and I think it should be pretty. I think it'll be better than a Mac Mini by a good bit. Maybe up on the ultra level, maybe on the bottom ultra level. I don't know. Who knows? But anyway, let's get started. Okay, first things first, from what I've read and studied on YouTube, that I need is a motherboard. So I just went on Amazon basically and I had a look at what motherboards are out there. My own main priority with a motherboard, something that I absolutely needed, was Thunderbolt connectivity. I use external SSD drives all the time in my workflow. I mightn't use them as much with this new build, but I will definitely need them at some stage. So I absolutely needed Thunderbolt connections, and a lot of motherboards don't have them. So I had to filter obviously by Thunderbolt connections, and I want something that was new and supported all the new RAM, all the new SSDs out there. I certainly didn't want something that was 2 or 3 generations old. So I had a quick look and Asus popped up. It's a brand that I'm familiar with, so I had a close look at their selection and I came across this ProArt 7890 Creator-WiFi motherboard, and from looking on reviews on YouTube and everything, it seemed like this was the one that I needed. I actually looked at a Z790 first and was going to get that, and then I just had a quick look to see and saw it was 2 years old. Looked for a new version, saw the 890 and was only €50 more. So I said, oh, I might as well go with the new version. But that had a little implication that I didn't realize till later on. So I'll go through that. But anywho, I'm just going to go ahead and open this lovely motherboard now, and we'll have a quick look at it. Okay, I've got the motherboard opened here and on display. I won't lie to you, I'm pretty nervous about this now. soon as just opening, taking this motherboard out, yeah, I'm afraid to break anything on it. It's all very delicate looking. And like I said, this is my first time. So, you know, hopefully you're feeling my stress here. But anyway, I'll talk you through what I know about the board. Obviously, this is where the CPU goes. And this is for my RAM. It can take 4 sticks of RAM. This motherboard can hold 5 SSDs, the M.2 SSDs, and which is awesome. It's great for expandability. Obviously, my graphics card will go in one of these PCI slots here, and then let me see. Can I show you? Let's see. Does this come in? Here's my IOs from the motherboard. So I've got 3 Thunderbolt 5, I believe it's 5, which is absolutely latest Thunderbolt connections on it. I've got a bunch of USB ports on it, which are all super fast, as fast as you can get. And then you've got some Ethernet connections there. You've got like a 10 gigabyte Ethernet connection, which is awesome. But I mean, the only time I'd ever see myself using that, which it could be if I use a NAS or something, and it's got a 2.5 gigabyte connection as well. But again, this is a computer I hope to have for longer than my previous one, more than 5 years. And the reason I got all of the latest stuff is because obviously in 5 years time it'll be a bit more outdated, but I still want to be able to expand it, swap out parts, do repairs, all that sort of good stuff. So I think this should somewhat future-proof me, even though I don't know, is future-proof really a thing? I think it's more of a marketing trick that they have you believe it's future-proof. But anyway, I fell for it. So this is the motherboard. I'm just going to spend a few minutes having a look at this, and then we're going to install the CPU, which is, you know, really nervous about that. We'll see how it goes. Okay, I've had a little look at the board here and peeled off some of the stickies on it. So I'm thinking I might be able to go to the next step, which is to add the CPU. So like I said earlier on, this board is the latest generation in the ProArt Creator series, or whatever they call it. I had looked at the previous revision and was going to go with that. And like I said, for 50 euro more, I'd get the brand new one. So I said, go with the brand new one. But that actually had an effect on me being a complete novice at this. Didn't realize that means I'm limited on my CPU chip here. I had initially was going to go for the Intel i9. Had it ordered in the basket from Amazon. It was all coming together. Watched a couple of videos and realized this brand new board only supports the brand new Series 2 Intel Core series of chips. So I had to cancel what I had ordered new, and another 100 euros on top of what I was already paying, which is pretty pricey. And anyway, so that's what I'm going to go with this i9 from Intel. Now, obviously, any gamers watching here will be going, bah, boo, humbug, should have went with AMD. This thing it's only out about 7 months, and it got very bad reviews for its gaming performance from Intel, and people were very disappointed with the performance. But I'm not buying this for a gaming. I'm buying this for photo editing and video editing. That's what this is primarily for. And in the 7 months that this has been out, Intel have released numerous updates, BIOS updates through board manufacturers and various other updates. So the performance overall is greatly improved on this chip, and it's still really, really super powerful chip when it comes to photo editing and video editing. So that's why I went with the Intel Core i9. And yeah, I just made my decision. We'll find out in a couple of years down the road whether it was the right decision or not, but I had to make a decision and I went with Intel. So I'm going to open this up and I'm going to try and put that chip in here without damaging any of the pins. And yeah, okay, let's go. Well, if that opened, I don't know if you can see that there. That's the back of the chip. And that's the front. Or the back. I suppose that's the back. Really, really, hands are shaking here doing this. I mean, I've watched many YouTube videos of people doing it and they make it look pretty easy. But obviously, I've never done it before. So, right, holding on to this chip. Like I said, it goes in here. So, I'm going to have to stand up to do this. Now, let's have a look. This thing here, push that down. Lift that up. I have to be so careful not to bend the pins. So these are all the pins, and apparently they're super easy to bend. So, whew, oh man, this is sketchy. Right, so watch the video. He said, come in from the side. Oh my God, my hands are shaking. Right, I was just reviewing my footage of the CPU install there from my overhead camera here, and all it was is a big shot of my baldy head leaning over the CPU, so I don't know if I'm going to use the footage. So I'll describe what I did again. So basically, I opened up this little bracket here, very carefully moved the CPU in from the side, opened up the bracket, pulled back this clip here to expose the clips, very carefully moved the CPU in from the side, dropped it there, and then closed this cover, and then pulled down the little lever with a bit of force under the latch here, and it popped the cover, and it worked. Now I was considering reshooting it, which would have meant having to take that CPU out again, but then I just went, nah, there's no way I'm taking that out again. It's not worth it. So you get the gist, you know what I did. Anyway, we move on to the next bit, which is to install my RAM here. So let me tell you something I've learned about RAM on and basically installing any components on motherboards. It's a bit of a mystery, and it even seems to be a bit of a mystery to the motherboard manufacturer. So when it comes to compatibility, this motherboard is capable of holding 256 gigabytes of RAM with the 4 different slots here. So if you do the maths, that's 64 gigabytes a stick. But there's this thing called the QVL, which is a list that the all motherboard providers, manufacturers provide. If you go on the website, you can find the QVL, and this list shows all of the components that the manufacturer has tested with that motherboard, and they're happy to say, yeah, this component will work and you won't have any issues. But this list isn't exhaustive. It doesn't cover all the components, and because it's a relatively new motherboard, you go on to Asus website and look at the QVL for this board. It doesn't even list 4 sticks that'll give you the 256 gigabytes. It only goes up to, it's a multiple combination of 2 16 gigabyte sticks, 2 32 gigabyte sticks, and 48 gigabyte sticks, but they don't even test 64 gigabyte sticks. So left me with a bit of a quandary. My previous laptop was operating off 32 gigabytes, which was great for a long time, but like I said, I've noticed I'm starting to use up all that RAM over the last year, so I definitely wanted to expand the RAM on this, and obviously 64 is the next progression, but I wanted to put more on it, and I wanted to do it this time and not have to come back to it. So I'm going with 128 gigabytes of DDR5 RAM here. It's 2 sticks of 64. They're not, like I said, it's not on the QVL, but I cannot see why it won't work. Just because it's not on the QVL doesn't mean it won't work. So I'm just going to take the chance here and throw these sticks in and see what we get. Like, I could have gone with 4 32 gigabyte sticks, but the way these boards work as well, they always recommend you use 2 sticks. Even though there's 4 slots, they recommend 2 sticks. You get faster speeds. Again, with this motherboard, they claim that it can easily handle 4 sticks and you don't see a massive reduction in speed of the RAM. But it's such a strange way. I don't want to be buying smaller RAM and then want to upgrade down the road and having to throw out the smaller RAM. Because another thing they say as well is, if I buy 2 sticks of RAM now and come back and buy the exact same 2 sticks of RAM 2 years down the road, you might get problems as well, because the RAMs aren't, in a pack of 4. The whole thing is crazy. So anyway, I'm going to go ahead and throw 2 sticks of 64 gigabyte RAM in there and see what happens. Right, here's my RAM, DDR5, which is the latest, greatest versions of RAM. The RAM speeds on this isn't the fastest. I could have gone with a faster and faster RAM stick, but obviously the price gets higher and higher and higher, and I think this will be plenty fast for me. So I'm going to try and install it in this in the slots here. So I'm going to get up again, and I'm going to not block the camera this time. So you've got 2 channels here, A and B. So you want to be putting the stick in the different channels, 1 in A, 1 in B. Now, again, it's the first time doing this, so let's see how we work here. There's a little slot on the bottom of the RAM stick that should line up. That seems to be clicking in place. That's one done. It's a bit of force to push that thing down. Let's try with the second one. Okay. I think, let's see, maybe this will go easier. So get this lined up correctly now. In we go. That went in a bit easier. So that's my first time putting RAM into a motherboard. I think it's in. There's a gap there. It's in, both channels are covered. And there's a bit of force to actually lift the motherboard up and push down with the thumbs. But the little clip is clipped in. It looks like it's seated right, so I think that's okay. Let's move on to the next thing. Like I said earlier on, this motherboard can take 5 SSDs, M.2 SSD drives. I'm going to put 2 in. I'm going to put in a 1 terabyte one as my primary drive and a 2 terabyte one as my secondary drive. So really, when I say primary drive, I think best practice is you put I think they call it a scratch drive. Basically, I'm going to put a 1 terabyte drive in here, and on that drive is going to live my Windows, all my Adobe software, my DaVinci Resolve. All those programs are going to run off that 1 terabyte drive. But all my project files, like my Lightroom catalog and any project files that generate to DaVinci, they're all going to live in the 2 terabyte drive. And that way, when you're working on Lightroom or you're working on DaVinci or Photoshop or anything like that, Windows can work away and do what Windows needs to do on the primary drive, and it won't your secondary drive or all your project files will run much faster and not be interfered by Windows. So that's the plan. And the other thing worth noting is best practice apparently is that when you're doing a new build, you just install the one MMD drive first, and when you're finished your build, you obviously have to install Windows. And Windows will be installed directly onto that one drive. Whereas if you have a second drive in the system, sometimes Windows, even if you select the 1 terabyte drive as your install location, Windows will still throw files onto your second drive, which can cause problems down the road if you want to remove that second drive, or even change the first drive. So unfortunately, I'm going to have to install one drive first, do the whole build, install Windows, get all my drivers and everything ready, and then come back at a later stage and install my second drive, which lives in here. So we're going to go ahead and install drive number 1 here. Right, I've opened up my SSD drive, and that's what it's looking like there. So like I said, I'm only going to put in the 1 terabyte version, so it's going to go in here. Now I've had to remove some sticky peely tape from there and from there. This is the heat sink. So this board can take up to generation 5, which is the latest SSDs, which are super fast. This is a Gen 4 SSD, and it's a really fast Gen 4. And the reason I didn't go for the Gen 5 was because it's about twice the price, plus they run very hot, and I want to keep the thermals down. I want to keep the temperature as low as possible on this build. So I didn't need that. I mean, this is really fast. Don't need any faster. Like I said, this block here is a massive heat sink for the Gen 5 SSD. So let's put this in, see how it works. So I'm just going to pop it in here. Yeah, that's pretty straightforward. And then down, and we have a little, let me see, how does this work? I believe it just goes down there, and then I slide this forward, and that's pretty straightforward. Now I put this heatsink back on it. Which way did I take it off? There, done. That's pretty straightforward. That was the easiest part yet so far. So like I said, I'm going to install Windows, Adobe, DaVinci, everything onto this drive. When I'm finished it, and I finished all my driver downloads, everything else, I'll have to take this motherboard out, and I'll have to install my next hard drive in here. The 2 terabytes going to go in here. And like I said, you can put 4 more, but that's plenty for me to start with. Okay, next up on the build is I need to cool this CPU somehow or another. So, it's 2 choices really, air cooled or water cooled, and I just went with air cooled. So I'm going to put this bad boy in here, which is a massive big air cooler, and it's excellent reviews. It's one of the better ones, if not the best one. And like I said, I really just didn't like the idea of water cooling, even though, look, it might be better for a CPU. I don't know, I'll find out, but apparently this is more than capable of cooling, and I think it might be an easier install, and I just went with it. I had to pick one, went with that. So let's open this up. There's a bit of assembly required, and also when I'm attaching this to the CPU, you have to put in a bit of thermal paste on top of the CPU. So this is something I'm looking forward to as well. So let's get this box open. Okay, I've opened up the cooler, and it's looking like that. Big piece of kit, all right. And now there's a couple of fans attach onto it. One attaches on the outside and one goes on the inside. I had to disassemble them. Now I had to do a bit of head scratching putting this thing together because it wasn't straightforward. There is a bracket, as you can see here. I had to screw a back plate into the back end of the motherboard with some screws coming out these 4 locations here, and then I put these brackets on it and screw it down. And the plan is that the cooler is going to screw down onto that. But first of all, I have to put some thermal paste, this stuff here. Let me see if it's in focus. There we go. Bit of this thermal paste onto the CPU. Now, like I said earlier in the video, I've never done this before. I've only got enough thermal paste for one shot, so I got to make it count. There's a million videos online, and I mean, there's going from putting one blob on to putting lines, 3 lines on it to covering the whole unit. I mean, I'm just going to go with what the instructions on the cooler says, and that is to put 1 large blob in the middle and 4 smaller blobs in the corner. And then once that's done, that forms a kind of a sandwich between the back of the CPU and the base of the cooler. So let's see how we get on. I'm pretty nervous here. Hope to get it right first time. Fingers crossed that's enough. Next stage is to put this cooler on. So I'm going to put this, as you can see, there's this base here. It has to match up with the back of the CPU. So let's give it a shot. Now I have to screw this in. Now, pretty happy with that. I'm just going to tighten these screws and we'll go on to the next stage. Okay, I've installed the fans, and I think it'll work out all right. So I had to install this fan here and then another fan here. Now this fan is sitting very close to the RAM, so if this doesn't work out or if it clashes with another fan, I can move it to this location, but I'm hoping it'll be all right there. So that putting the air cooler in was pretty finicky and pretty yeah, it took a while, and I'm kind of hoping I don't have to take it off again. Hopefully that thermal paste works out, but I won't know until I switch the computer on and start running it up and have a look at the thermals. Next thing I need to put in next is, this big bad boy here. So obviously this is the computer case. That's going into the computer case next. I just went with, let's call them, what is it, Fractal Meshify 2. Apparently it's a pretty good case, and I like the look of it. So I have to open this up and install the board. So look, I'll just go ahead and open this up now. Well, okay, this is the case. Pretty standard case to me. It's a glass side on that side, and I'm sorry about the noise. You can open up this here, gain access to the fan. So these cases covered in filters, so there's filters on tops and the sides, and obviously both sides open up, and you can remove this glass panel here, which obviously I'll be doing for the install. And plan is to install the motherboard here. Power supply units going down there, graphics card go in here. and all the wiring to be done then. So I mean, you know, how hard can it be? What can go wrong? So I'm going to get cracking at this. Right, I took the glass cover off the case. I put the case down on its side, as you can see here, and I simply just dropped in the motherboard onto the case, and there's like there's pre-drilled holes. There's about 8 of them on the motherboard, and they line up with a little threaded feature on the back of the case, or a threaded hole, should I say. And yeah, so it's pretty straightforward. I just dropped that in. This IOs, your inputs, outputs here, lines up at the back of the case, and now I'm just going to throw in 8 screws into that. Okay, well, I went successfully screwed in the motherboard to the case, and then spent the following hour attaching all of the cables that are fixed onto the case. So these are cables for your power button, your USB, front panel USBs, all these sort of things. All of those cables have to be connected to the motherboard. So I didn't show you. You just don't need to see it. It's pretty time consuming, but it took me about an hour just to do that bit. But I'm giving a shout out to a YouTuber here, is Christopher Flanagan, and I'm watching one of his videos here on his step-by-step guide on building this particular building a setup with using this case, and it's brilliant. So I'll put a link to the description. After that, I need to do my power supply. So I'm going to put in this power supply. It's the Corsair. It's an 850 watt power supply unit. Should be more than enough for what I need. This is going to go in the base of the case here. I'll give you a look at what it looks like out of the box. There we go. And I expect I'm going to be the next couple of hours connecting up all of the cables that came with this power supply unit. As you see, I've literally got a handful of different cables here. So I'm going to do that. Another hint or another trick for you guys is that the set of instructions that comes with my motherboard, the Asus motherboard, isn't very detailed. It's only like 4 or 5 pages. So make sure you go onto their website. There's much more detailed instructions for your motherboards there, and it's just far more useful. So don't forget to check the website. So look, I'm going to get stuck into this bit. Okay, so we're making progress here. I have that power supply installed at the base of the case, and I've connected up all of the cables to various locations on the motherboard, and we're ready for the final component, which is the GPU, so the graphics card. So I've gone for this Geforce 4070 Super. It's pretty good graphics card. It's mid to upper range. It's not the tippy top, but it's definitely mid-range, and it's a huge upgrade from what I had previously. So this is going to make a huge difference to my workflow. The GPU is used more and more by Lightroom and Photoshop over the last couple of years. 2-3 years ago, those programs didn't really use the GPU too much, but now they're using them more and more, all because of AI. All of the AI features that Adobe's implementing, the denoise, the generative fill, lots and lots, and they keep updating more and more features with AI features. The GPU is used greatly when it's using those features on the software. So having a good graphics card is going to make a difference. And obviously with DaVinci Resolve, having a graphics card, it'll make a huge difference to my rendering times and scrubbing the timeline, especially when I'm using 4K. So yeah, this is great. So I'll show you what the graphics card looks like. So here it is there in all its glory. And now I'll briefly show you where it's going to go attached to the motherboard, and then I'll go ahead and attach it on my own. So here's the motherboard. As you can see, there's a lot more cables now since I started wiring in from the power supply and various different things. So I'm going to attach the graphics card here, and it simply goes like this, and it'll slot into the top PCI slot like that, and then I'll screw it in with a couple of screws here and attach the power cables, and that'll be the final part of my install. And then it's a case of switching on and see does it work. So I'm going to get cracking at this, and we'll see how we get on. Okay, here we are. It's about 2 days later, and I'm finally done, and I'm very, very happy. So I got the graphics card in, got the case back connected. I'm happy with how it looks. It's pretty straightforward and plain looking. I didn't go RGB or anything like that, because to tell you the truth, this computer is probably going to live on the ground beside my desk because it's just too big for my desk. But once I had the graphics card in, and like I said, the case closed up, I connected it, powered it up, connected it to my monitor, switched it on. Was a bit nervous. All the lights on the motherboard went through the correct sequence, but then nothing happened on my screen. So a bit of troubleshooting with my monitor, found it was connected to a Thunderbolt source, not HDMI. So I fixed that, and yeah, it loaded up into BIOS, and I was well happy. But the first main problem I hit, and this is something that I kind of thought might happen, but I hadn't seen it on any videos, is I use a wireless keyboard and a wireless mouse that connect via a dongle to the back of the USB port. And once I was in BIOS, it wasn't detecting my dongle, so I couldn't interact with the BIOS at all. Obviously, I had no keyboard or mouse, so it's a disaster in that sense. So I had to switch it off and go off and get borrow a wired keyboard, an old school keyboard, because I mean, who has these knocked around anymore? I don't. They're all wireless in the house. They're all laptops in the house. So I would really recommend that you have an old wired keyboard and mouse, something that connects with a USB. Because like I said, I couldn't have done any more until I got it, and it doesn't seem to be an issue for most of the YouTube videos I watched. So maybe, I don't know, I was doing something wrong, I don't know, but it didn't have the drivers, and it didn't detect I couldn't install the drivers until I got into Windows, so I was kind of snookered until I got that. So once I got that wireless keyboard, I was able to work away with the BIOS, no problem. And then it's a simple case of you download a Windows installer onto a USB stick prior to the build. So you download that Windows installer onto the USB stick, and you put that into one of the USB ports, boot up the Windows installer from BIOS, and install away. Make sure it is well worth having your LAN and wireless drivers pre-downloaded onto that USB stick as well. So for your motherboard, before on another computer beforehand, download those onto your USB stick, because once you go through the Windows setup stage, it'll want to connect to your Wi-Fi and your internet. You can skip past that, finish the install, and then once the install is complete, from the same stick, then you can install your LAN drivers and your wireless, and then you can connect to the internet and download all your other drivers. Once I was connected with Windows, I updated my BIOS version on the motherboard, and again, in my case, I went to Asus website, got the latest BIOS, downloaded that onto another USB stick, rebooted back into BIOS, and from BIOS you can insert the USB stick, and there's steps there to update the BIOS to the latest revision, so you absolutely need to do that. So I did that worked fine, went back into Windows, install all my drivers. Now, I was quite a while finding drivers, because there's Asus driver set comes with the motherboard, but it seemed to be incomplete, and I had to go to Intel to download drivers. And NVIDIA was straightforward for the graphics card. I just downloaded an NVIDIA driver, that was no problem. But I was a long time looking around because there was drivers missing, and I had to go search for some drivers. So that could have been just a quirk with my choice of motherboard and setup. But yeah, it took me a while to get all the drivers. Once that was done, I installed all my Adobe software, so my Lightroom, my Photoshop, and DaVinci Resolve, and I tested them, and I mean, it's a beast. It just eats through them. I mean, I was just, for a little test, like I did a pano. I have a pano, 7-shot pano for my Sony A7 R5, and they're 61 megapixels each. 7-shot combined pano. It ate through it. It combined it in about 5 or 10 seconds. And even on that massive file, then I was able to run denoise on it again. My old computer would have just died even I tried to do that. So I ran denoise. It denoised that image, that massive image, in about 10 seconds. So, and that was like, I was just really pushing it to the breaking point there, but absolutely no problem with that. And all of the generative AI features, all that works really nicely. And Resolve, I mean, I rendered out a 15-minute video in Resolve just as a test, and I did it in about 6.5 minutes. Now, I mean, that was taking me, on a good day, about 30 minutes beforehand. That was when my graphics card was working on my last laptop. After that, it just couldn't do it. So it ate through all of that. and I was really happy with that performance. Yeah, and then I went back into BIOS to upgrade to increase the speed of my RAM. So I used ChatGPT for a lot of these like tweaking functions and for help throughout the build. And it is super useful, but I mean, it did make mistakes along the way, so just be careful. But like my RAM is rated for 5600 mega transfers per second or something like that. But when you install your RAM, it doesn't detect it at that speed. For me, it was detecting it, it was setting it to 4000. So you can use the AI tuner, like you can overclock your RAM, and it's a totally normal thing to do once you have your PC installed. So I tried to overclock it up as much as I could. Now I could only get my RAM up to 4600, which I'm a little bit disappointed, but I'm not that surprised because it's such a new board, new chip, and there's BIOS updates coming all the time. Plus my 128 gig is kind of really pushing it. So it was 4600. Look, it's super fast. I'm still really happy with it, but I hope to, over time, with more and more updates, be able to get that up closer to the 5600. And I had a quick look on Amazon, and actually I don't see too many sticks for 128 gigabytes that go up or that are rated past 5600. I'm sure they'll be coming out in the next few months, but anywho, that was my experience. So it's set to 4600. Finally, and a mistake I made, which again, just giving you guys a heads up, is I ran a Cinebench score in this setup, and it spat out a score. When I checked to see if it was any good, I was told, no, this is terrible. This is really poor performance for a computer of this size and the CPU, the Intel i9. So I spent at least a day tweaking this, going through, double checking drivers, doing everything. I mean, I couldn't understand it because from my using the system, I could see it was super fast, but the Cinebench store kept giving me a low score. And then eventually I downloaded this Geekbench 6, which is another benchmark app, and it gave me a really good score. So my head was melted until I suddenly realized, or until I realized a bit more digging, that there's a new version of Cinebench, Cinebench 24, which is what I was using. The whole point system is completely different to all the previous versions, which everyone else was using. So basically, when I checked my Cinebench 2024 score, it came out and said, yeah, it's bang on. It said I'm running probably about 5% below where I need to be, but that's absolutely fine. That's down to me. I need to tweak fan speeds, and if I really wanted to, mess with cooling and like I said, get that RAM speed up. There's lots more things I could do, but don't make that mistake with the Cinebench. Just stay away from it, because like I said, it sent me down a rabbit hole for about a day trying to fix a problem that wasn't really there. And but overall, yeah, I'm really happy. This was a great thing to do. Over the computer, all bits and pieces all together, cost me about 3,200 euros, which was a little bit more than I had planned to spend. But like I said, with my CPU upgrades and a few other little upgrades I made along the way, it still comes out cheaper than what I spent on the laptop I've been using for the last 5 years, and I hope to get many years out of this. And it's, for that price, it's way below what you pay on an Ultra or Mac Ultra or anything like that. And I think this performance and this is right up there with the Ultra. And I'd advise anyone who's considering buying a new computer to give it a shot. Go ahead and build one. There's loads of help on YouTube, and there's loads of options for components out there. And yeah, it was good fun. So I hope to have many years of happy editing on this computer, and I hope, if you've made it this far, anyone who's made it this far, well, look, thanks a million. I hope you got something out of the video. I hope it's some tips and tricks there for you guys. And I'll be back to business as usual in my next video, probably in the next week or two. And until then, if you really like this, well, hit the like button. If you have any questions, drop a comment, and then, any support, a sub would be really appreciated. And until the next video, I'll see you. Bye-bye.